Hello mates, welcome to the West 6 Mixology podcast. I'm Scotty Clark, and our show today is about the magic that happens when bold, smoky agave spirit collides with bright, tangy citrus to create what might just be the most exciting twist on a classic margarita you've ever tasted. We're diving deep into the world of mezcal, and trust me, once you experience that rich smokiness dancing with zesty lime and a kiss of orange, you'll never look at a standard margarita the same way again. So grab a glass, settle in, and let's get into it. There's a small fire inside every bottle of mezcal. Not a metaphor, an actual consequence of flame. Before fermentation, before distillation, the heart of the agave plant gets buried in a pit lined with volcanic rock, covered in earth, and slow roasted over wood fire for days. The smoke seeps into the fibres of the plant, bonds with the sugars, and never quite leaves. What comes out of that pit isn't just an ingredient, it's a memory of fire. And when you build a margarita around it, you don't just make a better cocktail, you make a completely different argument about what a cocktail can be. Now, the margarita itself has a contested past. 3 people claim to have invented it. None of them can prove it, and all 3 stories are plausible enough to be true. Which tells you something interesting about the cocktail's character. It belongs to everyone and no one simultaneously. What we know for certain is that the template is ancient in cocktail terms. A daisy, which is spirit, citrus, and sweetener in elegant proportion. The margarita is simply the most famous daisy that ever lived. For decades, tequila owned that framework completely. Then mezcal arrived, looked tequila directly in the eye, and said, "Sit down, I've been here longer." Because here's what most people don't know. Mezcal predates tequila by centuries. The word itself comes from Nahuatl, mexcali, meaning cooked agave. Tequila is actually a specific, regulated subcategory of mezcal. Calling mezcal the smoky version of tequila is a bit like calling the ocean the wet version of a swimming pool. The ocean was there first, and it's considerably more interesting. The craft cocktail movement, somewhere in the early 21st century, rediscovered this. Bartenders, particularly in New York, Los Angeles, and Mexico City, were aggressively seeking spirits with genuine provenance. Not just a label with a story, but a production method with a history, a geography, a community behind it. A man named Ron Cooper had been working in the remote villages of Oaxaca, partnering with indigenous Zapotec families whose ancestors had made mezcal the same way for generations, and introducing their spirits to American restaurant culture through his Del Maguey project. What those bartenders tasted was unlike anything the commercial spirits world had offered them. It was earthy, smoky, mineral, alive. Phil Ward at Deaf & Co. in New York built a cocktail, an Oaxacan old-fashioned, that essentially announced to the professional world, mezcal belongs behind the bar. The Mezcal Margarita followed as the logical, brilliant next move. So, what goes into this thing, and why does each component matter enough to have an opinion about it? The mezcal, 2 ounces. You want an espadin-based expression to start. Agave angustifolia, the workhorse variety that accounts for the vast majority of production. Not because it's lesser, but because it's the most expressive of the category's essential character, without tipping into smoke so aggressive it obliterates everything around it. Del Maguey Vida is the canonical recommendation for good reason. Accessible smoke, stone fruit, mineral clarity. If you're ready to go deeper, Vargo Espadin en Barro, fermented and distilled in clay, adds a wild, almost animalistic earthiness that's genuinely extraordinary in this application. What you're not looking for is a heavily industrialized expression that swaps artisanal production for a smoke additive. That's not smoke, that's a costume. Fresh lime juice, 3/4 of an ounce. This is non-negotiable in a way that I will hold the line on cheerfully forever. Bottled lime juice is not lime juice. It's a legally permitted impersonation of lime juice. Fresh citrus contains volatile aromatic compounds that begin dissipating the moment the fruit is cut. Those compounds are doing crucial work here. They're cutting through smoke, providing lift, creating brightness. Without them, you have a brown, heavy, spirit-forward sour with no wings. Squeeze it today. Triple sec or Cointreau, 3/4 of an ounce. This is your sweetener and your orange character simultaneously. Budget triple sec is mostly sugar syrup with orange flavouring and very little structural contribution. Cointreau runs at a proper 40% alcohol, brings dry orange peel bitterness, and adds backbone rather than mere sweetness. Pierre Ferrand dry Curaçao is what serious bar programs often reach for. More complexity, a slightly bitter finish that plays beautifully against the smoke. A 1/4 ounce of agave nectar, diluted to syrup consistency, is optional but worth considering. It echoes the spirit's origin, reinforces the agave connection, and gives you a touch more roundness if your mezcal is running lean. The salt rim. Not decoration, chemistry. Salt actively suppresses bitter compounds on the palate, and in doing so, amplifies everything else. The citrus reads brighter, the smoke reads cleaner, the sweetness reads more integrated. Now, sal de gusano, ground larvae of moths that live on agave plants. An ancient Zapotec condiment that predates European contact by an unknowable stretch of time. It sounds like the kind of detail you'd invent to see if people were paying attention, but it's entirely real, deeply traditional, and when you rim a Mezcal Margarita with it, the effect is extraordinary. Earthy, savoury, mildly funky, with a mineral quality that mirrors the spirit itself. Half rim only. Give the drinker the choice of how much salt hits each sip. Now make the thing. Chill your glass first. A coupe if you're going up, a rocks glass if you're going over ice. Fill it with cold water while you work. Combine mezcal, lime juice, Cointreau, and agave nectar in your shaker. Add ice. Good, cold, dry ice, not the waterlogged stuff you've been digging around the bottom of the bin. Shake hard for 12 to 15 seconds. The outside of the shaker should be painful to hold and thoroughly frosted. That's not style, that's function. You've just chilled and diluted the drink by roughly 20%, which is essential. Undiluted mezcal at full proof in a sour structure is harsh. The water integration opens the floral and fruit notes, softens the alcohol heat, and makes the smoke approachable. Double strain into your chilled glass to remove ice chips, which will melt and over-dilute instantly. Express a lime peel over the surface, run it around the rim, drop it in or on the edge. Now taste it. And if you have 2 different mezcals at home, make one with each. The difference will reorganize your understanding of the spirit category. The variations deserve their moment. The spicy Mezcal Margarita. Muddle 2 or 3 jalapeno slices in the shaker before adding ingredients. This creates a dynamic where heat amplifies smoke and smoke amplifies heat in a loop that's genuinely compelling. The blood orange variation, substituting half the lime for blood orange juice and swapping Cointreau for Aperol, produces a ruby-coloured drink with bitter citrus complexity and a dramatic visual presence that earns its place in the winter repertoire. Then there's the cantina-style mezcalita. Built casually in the glass over ice, generous sal de gusano rim, no fussing, which is actually how much of Oaxaca drinks mezcal-based cocktails, and there's a rightness to that lack of ceremony that the craft bar world occasionally needs reminding of. For the technically adventurous, a smoked glass. A smoking gun with mesquite chips, sealed inside the coupe for 30 seconds before you pour. When the drink hits the smoke, the aromatic first impression is theatrical and genuinely layered. You're getting smoke from the spirit and smoke from the glass as separate signals, and the brain finds it extraordinary. Some bartenders argue this is redundant showmanship. Those bartenders have never watched someone's face when they first lift that glass. Drinking this cocktail is a particular kind of experience. The nose arrives first. Wood smoke and roasted agave. Then, behind it, a sharp cut of lime zest. The first sip is a collision. Acid and smoke arriving almost simultaneously, the salt on the rim sharpening both. Mid-palate, the earth and mineral quality of the mezcal's surface. The orange from the Cointreau builds a quiet sweetness that bridges the citrus and the spirit. The finish is long and dry, smoke sitting at the back of the palate, warmth fading slowly, a last breath of citrus following it out. It is not a casual drink. It rewards attention. Serve it before grilled food, charred octopus, tlayuda, anything where smoke on the plate meets smoke in the glass, with that deep sense of harmony. Pour it late afternoon into evening when the light is changing and the conversation is just getting interesting. Here's the thing about the Mezcal Margarita that I find genuinely moving. The story of this cocktail is not the story of one brilliant person in one bar on one evening. It's the story of a spirit being rescued from dismissal. Mezcal was for decades considered rough, rural, beneath consideration. The Zapotec families making it by hand in the valleys of Oaxaca had been doing it for centuries, with methods unchanged, with integrity intact. What the craft cocktail movement did, what every bartender who put mezcal in a margarita template did, was hold those bottles up to the light and say, "Look at this. Look at what we almost missed." Every mezcal margarita you make this January is a small act of that same recognition. The fire got there first. Your job is just to build the drink around it. All right, thank you for joining us for the West 6 podcast. Drink responsibly, and if you had a good time, press follow and rate our show 5 stars. This is Scotty signing off. May your troubles be lighter than your cocktails.
Grep News. Thomas.